AITA for canceling my wedding after my fiancée let her ex control it? My name is Alexander. I am 29, and I manage corporate events for a hotel group in Denver. This means I spend most weekdays arguing with florists, AV techs, catering directors, and people who think just a small change means moving a stage 2 hours before doors open. At home, I was engaged to Tessa, and for a while, I thought planning our wedding would be the one event I didn't have to emotionally detach from. I was wrong. The first sign was a signature line on a vendor contract that had my initials typed in a font I never use. It was almost midnight, and I was standing at our kitchen counter with my laptop open, eating cold lo mein straight from the container because I had gotten home late from a pharmaceutical conference setup. Our apartment smelled like soy sauce, printer ink, and the lavender candles Tessa liked to light whenever she said the wedding clutter was making the place feel visually aggressive. The second bedroom had basically become a storage unit. Invitation samples were stacked on the desk. Welcome bags leaned against the closet doors. Table numbers sat in an open Amazon box beside a half-built seating chart on foam board. There were ribbon samples draped over a chair like a craft store had exploded. I had opened the updated catering contract because the subject line said Final BO, revised. Anyone who works events knows that final and revised in the same subject line is a threat. At first, I thought it was a normal cleanup. The head count was still 115. The date was right. The venue was right, a Mountain View place outside Denver that marketed itself as rustic luxury, which mostly meant exposed beams, string lights, and a price tag that made people say, "But the photos will be incredible." Then I saw the new additions. Late-night espresso martini shooters. A dessert station with mini bourbon pecan pies and lemon lavender tartlets. A plated dinner option replacing the family-style service Tessa and I had chosen months earlier. The entree upgrade alone added almost $4,000 after service fees. I scrolled to the bottom, thinking maybe it was a sample packet or another couple's BO attached by mistake. There it was, change authorization approved by AM. My initials. Typed. Not signed through the platform. Not my e-signature. Not even pasted from an earlier document. Just AM, in a generic font, sitting there like a bad joke. I stared at it for a long minute while the refrigerator hummed, and Tessa watched some baking show in the living room. "Tess," I called. She paused the TV. "Yeah." "Did you change the catering order?" She came into the kitchen wearing one of my old CU Boulder sweatshirts and fuzzy socks, her hair twisted up with a pin. She looked sleepy and soft and annoyed in the way people look when they are asked a serious question after they have already decided the day is over. "What catering order?" "The wedding catering. There are espresso martini shooters, a dessert station, and the dinner is plated now." She leaned over the counter, squinted at the screen, and made a little humming sound. "Oh, maybe we talked about that." "We didn't." "Are you sure?" She smiled, but not all the way. "Baby, you plan like 6 events at once. Is this just work brain?" I didn't answer right away. That was the thing Tessa had been saying for months whenever I noticed something off. Work brain. Event guy mode. Spreadsheet spiral. She said it with a laugh, usually while touching my arm or kissing my cheek, so it sounded affectionate instead of insulting. But in my world, a small tweak is moving a centerpiece. It is not adding $4,000 to a catering invoice. "I'm asking why my initials are on something I didn't approve," I said. She sighed and reached for the lo mein. "I don't know, Alexander. Maybe you told them verbally and they typed it in. Vendors do that all the time, right?" "No, not like this." "Well, can we not do this at midnight?" she said. "I'm tired, you're tired, and every time wedding stuff comes up lately, it feels like I'm being audited." That landed exactly where she wanted it to. I closed the laptop halfway and felt guilty even though I knew I had not approved the changes. Tessa and I had been together for 3 years. She was 28, smart, funny when she wanted to be, and the kind of person who could walk into a crowded room and make everyone feel like she had just been waiting for them to arrive. When we got engaged, I thought the planning would be manageable. Not cheap, but manageable. We wanted something practical and warm. 115 guests, mountain view, family-style dinner, simple flowers, good music, no smoke machines, or influencer nonsense. I handled the contracts, deposit schedules, hotel blocks, and vendor portals because that stuff did not scare me. Tessa said spreadsheets made her want to crawl out of her skin, so she handled what she called the vibe stuff: colors, music, personal touches, bridesmaid dresses, and little signs with cursive fonts that all looked the same to me. I was paying for most of it. Tessa had been between stable contracts for a while, picking up freelance marketing work, and I didn't want money to become a scoreboard between us. My parents contributed some. Her parents paid for her dress and part of the rehearsal dinner. But the big deposits mostly came from me. At first, I was proud that I could do that. Then, slowly, it started to feel less like generosity and more like a trap I was walking into while carrying the clipboard. The catering contract was the first thing I could not explain away. 2 days later, the DJ sent an updated music timeline. I opened it during lunch at work while sitting in a back office near the banquet kitchen, half listening to someone in the hallway complain that the coffee urns were too corporate. The processional was the same. Cocktail hour playlist, fine. Parent dances, fine. Then I saw the first dance. Sweet Virginia Rain. I stared at the title. I had never heard of it. I texted Tessa. Me. Is Sweet Virginia Rain our first dance now? She replied almost immediately. Tessa, maybe. I thought it was pretty. Me, we picked Coming Home. Tessa, I know, but this one feels more emotional. Me, emotional for who? I don't know this song. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Tessa, it's not that deep, Alexander. Not every song needs a spreadsheet. I put the phone down and leaned back in my chair. Rafi, my coworker and closest friend at the hotel, looked up from a room diagram he was marking with a red pen. Rafi is 34, blunt in the way only someone who has survived 10 years in events can be blunt, and he can spot a bad setup from across a ballroom. That face means client drama or woman drama, he said. Wedding drama. So both. I showed him the DJ timeline. He whistled through his teeth. You changed your first dance to a song you don't know? I didn't change it. He gave me a look, but didn't push. Not then. Over the next week, more weird things appeared. The florist invoice included blue thistle, which Tessa had once described as sad, prickly weeds pretending to be flowers. The bar package added a signature cocktail called the Second Chance, which sounded like a cute wedding name if you did not think about it for more than 4 seconds. The seating chart shifted 3 tables around and moved Marcus, Tessa's former boyfriend, from a normal college friend's table to one near the dance floor with a clear view of our sweetheart table. Marcus had always been a sore point, though I tried hard not to make him one. Tessa had dated him in her early 20s. They had one of those intense relationships people describe with words like complicated, when they really mean it was a highly unhealthy situation. When we made the guest list, she said inviting him was mature because they still had mutual friends. We're all adults, she said at the time. It would be weirder not to invite him. I did not love it, but I also did not want to be the guy who banned an ex like he was guarding a castle. So Marcus got an invitation. But now Marcus was sitting closer to us than my Aunt Linda, who had already booked a flight from Ohio and texted me 2 times about whether Denver in September required a wrap. I brought it up while Tessa and I were folding little itinerary cards for welcome bags at the coffee table. A Rockies game played silently on TV. There were gold twist ties everywhere. Why is Marcus closer to us than my aunt who flew in from Ohio? I asked. Tessa did not look up. He knows that group. It avoids awkwardness. He was at table 12 before. Table 12 was weird. He doesn't really know them. He knows us. She dropped a card onto the pile. You're making this weird. I'm not making it weird. I'm asking why he needs a premium view of our first dance. Her face changed. It was small, but I saw it. The soft irritation hardened into something defensive. It's a wedding, not a theater seat map, she said. And honestly, this is what I mean. You turn everything into an operations meeting. I wanted to say that operations meetings are useful because they keep people from being surprised by expensive disasters. Instead, I picked up another stack of cards and kept folding. That was my mistake for a while. I kept trying to be reasonable in situations that were not reasonable. The following Sunday, we had dinner with Tessa's mother, Diane, at a restaurant in Cherry Creek where the lighting was low and every entree came with microgreens. Diane was 57, polished in a way that made even casual comments feel like they had been rehearsed. She had the kind of smile people use at charity luncheons and tense family dinners. Tessa must have told her I was being difficult because halfway through the meal, Diane set down her wine and said, Alexander, weddings are emotional. They aren't corporate events. I looked up from my salmon. I know that. Do you? Diane asked gently, which somehow made it worse. Because Tessa feels like every choice she makes has to pass inspection. Tessa stared at her plate. I'm not inspecting her, I said. I'm trying to understand why things are being changed after we agreed on them. Diane tilted her head. People have booked flights. Deposits have been paid. At some point, you have to stop treating this like a hotel ballroom flip. Tessa gave a little embarrassed laugh, like her mother had said something sharp but fair. I felt heat crawl up my neck. A hotel ballroom flip is exactly when you don't ignore paperwork. Diane's smile thinned. Don't make a huge mistake over planning misunderstandings. On the drive home, Tessa was quiet until we got near our exit. You made Mom feel like you were calling me irresponsible, she said. I didn't bring it up. She did. She's worried about me. I'm worried too. That's not the same thing. I gripped the steering wheel and watched the taillights ahead of us blur in the windshield. Tessa, did you change the first dance song because of Marcus? She turned toward the window. Oh my God, that's not an answer. It was just a song. Then why did you hide it? I didn't hide it. You found it in the timeline, didn't you? That answer bothered me more than a denial would have. The next morning at work, I showed Rafi the catering contract, the DJ timeline, and the seating chart. I did it like I was presenting a client issue, not my personal life, because that was the only way I could keep my voice steady. Rafi took one look at the catering PDF and frowned. This approval didn't come from the same chain, he said. What? He tapped the top of the forwarded email. See this? The original thread had you, Tessa, the catering manager, and the venue coordinator. This revised one is attached from a separate chain. Different subject formatting. Different reply indentation. Somebody forwarded it into the official thread after the fact. My stomach tightened. That could be normal. It could be, he said. But with typed initials? No. This isn't messy planning. This is somebody wanting the invoice to land in your lap. I hated how relieved I felt hearing someone else say it looked wrong. Rafi leaned back. I'm not telling you what's happening emotionally. I don't know your relationship. But professionally, freeze approvals. Ask for audit trails. Get everything in writing. And for the love of God, stop accepting "you probably forgot" as an explanation for charges with your name on them. That afternoon, I logged into the venue portal. There was a secondary contact email connected to the account. It was Tessa's old Gmail, the one she used for college friends and shopping accounts. I clicked into the activity log and saw change requests submitted at times I knew I had been working events. One was submitted during a leadership dinner where I had spent 6 straight hours handling a projector issue and a keynote speaker who refused to wear a lav mic. I sat there staring at the screen while the hotel office buzzed around me. Then Nina called. Nina was the venue sales director. I knew her professionally, not closely, but enough that we had exchanged polite industry complaints over the years. She was good at her job, which meant she was calm even when clients were absolutely not. Hey, Alexander, she said. Sorry, I just realized you may not have been copied on the latest floor plan thread, so I forwarded it over. My inbox pinged. Thanks, I said slowly. Which thread? The one about the cocktail layout and the Marcus table. The room seemed to go quiet, even though it didn't. The what table? I asked. There was a pause. I'm sorry, Nina said. I thought you were already on this thread. I opened the email. There it was. Tessa writing from her old Gmail. Don't copy Alexander on this yet. He'll overthink it. Below that were notes about moving Marcus's table, keeping a clear sight line to the dance floor, adding the second chance as a signature cocktail, and changing the private last dance. Nina said my name 2 times before I realized she was still on the phone. I'm here, I said. I don't want to step into anything personal, she said carefully. From our side, we just need clear authorization. If you want, I can send the audit trail for all change requests attached to the account. Please do, I said. My voice sounded too calm. And effective immediately, no changes are approved unless confirmed directly by me in writing from this email address. Understood. After we hung up, I sat at my desk for a full minute, hands flat on the surface, trying not to do anything foolish. Then I went home and did something worse for my heart, but better for my future. I checked the shared wedding folder. It was not invading her privacy. It was a folder we both used for contracts, guest lists, inspiration photos, and vendor invoices. I was looking for older versions of the catering documents when I noticed a subfolder named Outs. Inside were screenshots. At first, I thought they were Pinterest ideas. Then I opened one. It was a text conversation between Tessa and Marcus. Tessa, would it mess with you if I used the Virginia song? Marcus, depends. Are you walking toward him or looking at me? Tessa, don't be a jerk. Marcus, you asked. Tessa, seriously. Marcus, yeah, it would mess with me. My mouth went dry. I clicked another screenshot. Tessa, is second chance too obvious? Marcus, only to me. Tessa, that's kind of the point. Marcus, poor hotel boy. Tessa, stop. Marcus, I'm just saying he's funding the whole movie. I backed away from the laptop like it had made a sound. The apartment was quiet. Tessa was at a bridal shower planning thing with her cousin. On the coffee table sat a stack of favor tags that said love, always in gold foil. I kept reading. There were screenshots of vendor quotes, seating charts, song lists, and payment schedules. Tessa had asked Marcus what would hurt the most if he attended. He told her Blue Thistle would be funny because of some trip they had taken. The bourbon pecan pies were from a vacation they had taken in Virginia. Sweet Virginia Rain was from an old road trip playlist. Then I found the message that made everything in me go still. Tessa, he's asking questions about cost again. Marcus, let him. He won't cancel if he's already this deep. Tessa, you don't know that. Marcus, guys like him need to look decent. He'll swallow it. Tessa, that sounds mean. Marcus, I'm not wrong. There was another one a few days later. Tessa, if you came to the rehearsal, would you say anything? Marcus, maybe if you looked miserable enough. Tessa, I'm not miserable. Marcus, then why are you asking me how to make your wedding feel like us? I closed the laptop and stood in the middle of the living room, breathing like I had just run stairs. That was the moment I stopped feeling jealous and started feeling foolish. Then I stopped feeling foolish and got organized. I did not confront her that night. I wanted to. I wanted to be waiting when she came home, laptop open, screenshots displayed, demanding she explain why my wedding had become a scavenger hunt for her ex-boyfriend's unresolved feelings. But Rafi's voice was in my head. Freeze approvals. Ask for audit trails. Get everything in writing. So I documented everything. I saved contracts, screenshots, payment records, email headers, and vendor portal logs. I exported the activity log from the venue portal. I took photos of the typed initials. I made a spreadsheet because, yes, that is what I do when a serious situation arises. The next morning, I called a local attorney named Coleman, recommended by a hotel client who had once needed help with a contract dispute. Coleman was in his 50s, calm, direct, and completely uninterested in the emotional drama except where it touched liability. His office was downtown, in a building with bad coffee and good views. He reviewed the contracts while I sat across from him with my hands clasped so tightly my knuckles hurt. You are on the hook for anything you signed directly, he said. I didn't sign these changes. I understand. The question is what the vendor can reasonably prove. Typed initials are weak, especially if the contract specifies approval through a signature platform or email confirmation. But some deposits are non-refundable no matter what happened between you and your fiancé. So I am out of luck. You are exposed, he said. That is not the same as being out of luck. He made a list. The 30-day cancellation deadline had passed for the venue, so that deposit was mostly gone. The 21-day deadline for the catering final guarantee had not hit yet. The 14-day deadline for rentals and floral upgrades was still ahead. The bar package could be downgraded if I acted immediately. The DJ changes were annoying, but not financially catastrophic. You don't need to win an argument tonight, Coleman said, sliding the papers back to me. You need to stop the bleeding. Communicate in writing. Do not threaten. Do not call vendors emotional. Use words like unauthorized, disputed, audit trail. Direct confirmation. If your fiancé used your name or initials, preserve that evidence. What about canceling the wedding? I asked. He looked at me over his glasses. That is not a legal question, Alexander. Legally, you can cancel anything you are willing to pay the consequences for. I left with a folder, a plan, and the strange numbness that comes when heartbreak has too many action items. For the next 2 days, I worked quietly. To catering, I wrote, I am disputing the plated dinner upgrade, late night station, and added dessert station because the approval did not come from my email or signature platform. Please send the audit trail and restore the prior family-style dinner BEO pending written confirmation. To the florist, no additional charges are authorized without written approval from me. Please remove blue thistle and any upgrade items not included in the original signed agreement. To the bar vendor. Effective immediately. The second chance cocktail and espresso martini shooters are not approved. Please revert to the original hosted bar package. To the venue. Please freeze all layout changes, seating chart revisions, and event timeline updates unless confirmed directly by me. Most vendors were sympathetic but careful. I understood. Contracts are contracts. Feelings do not void cancellation clauses. But audit trails help. Deadlines matter. Written approvals matter. Nina called me after getting my email. I'm sorry, she said. I can't unwind the venue deposit, but I can pause anything not finalized and remove the added layout charges. I appreciate it. For what it's worth, she added, then stopped. You don't have to say anything. I know. I'm just sorry. That almost broke me more than the documents did. At home, Tessa sensed the shift. She found me at the kitchen table with my laptop open and a stack of printed contracts beside me. The printer had jammed 2 times, and I had spent 10 minutes pulling out shredded paper while muttering words that would have gotten me written up if a client heard them. You've been weird all day, she said. I've been busy. With what? Contracts. Her eyes flicked to the papers. Wedding contracts. Some of them. She came closer and put her hand on my shoulder. Are you mad at me? The touch felt familiar enough to hurt. I'm tired, I said. Alex. She only called me that when she wanted softness from me. I know I've been stressed. I know you've been stressed. Can we just get through the wedding and breathe after? I looked up at her. Is that what you want? What kind of question is that? A real one. She pulled her hand back. I want you to stop acting like I'm trying to ruin your future because I picked flowers you don't like. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because she still thought the flowers were the safest battlefield. I'm not doing this tonight, I said. Her face went wounded first, then irritated. Fine. Punish me with silence. That's healthy. I went back to my papers. The venue walkthrough was the next evening. It was supposed to be a final rehearsal dinner check-in. Layout, timing, ceremony flow, where grandparents would sit, and where the wedding party would line up. Both families were there, plus a few members of the wedding party. Diane arrived in cream slacks and a silk blouse, carrying a tote bag full of printed itineraries like she was running for office. Tessa played the stressed bride perfectly. She hugged people with one arm, kept checking her phone, and made little jokes about needing wine. Everyone treated her like she was made of glass. My dad gave me a careful look when I walked in with a black folder under my arm. You okay? He asked quietly. No, I said, but I'm prepared. He didn't ask more, which I appreciated. We started in the reception space. The mountains were visible through the windows, blue-gray and beautiful in that unfair Colorado way. String lights hung over the dance floor. Tables were stacked against one wall. Someone had placed a sample centerpiece on the bar, and yes, there was blue thistle sticking out of it. Nina walked us through the layout with professional calm. Cocktail hour would be here. Dinner stations were originally family style, but I understand catering is reverting that pending final confirmation. Bar here. The signature cocktail signage was going to go at this end, but we've paused that. Diane frowned. Paused. Tessa looked at me. My father leaned toward the sample sign sitting on the bar. Second chance, he read. Second chance at what? No one answered. Diane gave a tight laugh. I'm sure it's just a cute name. Then she turned to me. Alexander, can we please not create confusion tonight? Everyone is stressed before a wedding. That was when I knew Tessa had expected this. Not the evidence, maybe, but the pressure. The families. The public setting. The assumption that I would not embarrass anyone. That I would rather absorb the humiliation privately than make other people uncomfortable. I opened the folder. I agree, I said. We should clear up the confusion. Tessa's eyes narrowed. Alexander. I placed the first page on a cocktail table. This is the catering change authorization with my typed initials. I did not approve it. A small silence opened around us. I placed another page down. This is the venue email chain where Tessa asked that I not be copied because I would, quote, overthink it. Can we talk about this privately? Tessa said quickly. We tried privately, I said. Privately is where my name got used. Diane stepped forward. This is not appropriate. No, I said. Typing my initials on vendor approvals was not appropriate. Diane's expression changed, but she recovered fast. Tessa, what is he talking about? Tessa's cheeks flushed. He's making it sound worse than it is. I was trying to make decisions without being interrogated. You changed payment terms, I said. You upgraded catering. You changed music. You moved Marcus's table. At the mention of Marcus, my mother made a small sound. Diane went still. Tessa folded her arms. Because you made every choice impossible. I took out the message screenshots. I did not pass around every private line. I had enough decency left not to turn pain into a public spectacle. But I had printed the parts that mattered. Vendor quotes sent to Marcus, him telling her I would not cancel if I was already deep, her asking what would mess with him, and the comments about the song, the cocktail, and the dessert. My hands shook a little when I set them down. I hated that. I wanted to look unaffected. I wasn't. You used my money, my name, and my job experience to build a wedding around your ex's reaction, I said. Tessa's face went white, then red. You went through my messages? You saved screenshots in our shared wedding folder. That is such a violation. You don't get to call me controlling because I noticed the bill had my name on it. Diane picked up one of the pages. Her eyes moved across it, and for once she had no polished response. Tessa looked around at everyone, searching for the angle that would work. It was just cold feet. It was stupid. Marcus and I have history, and I was confused. That doesn't mean I don't love you. I looked at her for a long second. Was this wedding ever about marrying me? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Before she could answer, her phone lit up in her hand. It was face up. A message preview flashed across the screen. Marcus, did he fold yet? No one moved. Tessa flipped the phone over so fast it clacked against the table. Diane whispered, Tessa, what does that mean? Tessa's mouth trembled. It's not what it looks like. Rafi would have laughed at that if he had been there. Maybe I would have too, on a different day. But in that room, with the mountains outside and my parents staring at the woman I almost married, all I felt was done. I removed my ring. It felt heavier coming off than it ever had on my hand. The wedding is canceled, I said. Tessa stared at me. You can't just cancel our wedding in front of everyone. I already started. What does that mean? It means vendors have been notified that unauthorized changes are disputed. Upgrades are frozen. Anything in my name goes through me. Anything you approved without me is your problem to explain. Diane snapped back to life. Alexander, people have flights. Your relatives have hotels. This is humiliating. I looked at her. I know. That stopped her. I know exactly how humiliating it is, I said. That's why I'm not paying to be the prop in somebody else's unresolved breakup. Tessa started crying then. Not loud sobs. Quiet, angry tears. So that's it. 3 years, and you're just done. This wedding was never mine, I said. It was barely ours. I picked up the folder, left the printed copies on the table, and walked out before anyone could make me stand there long enough to become cruel. The next week was ugly in the practical way canceled weddings are ugly. Relatives texted. Some were kind. Some wanted gossip disguised as concern. The wedding group chat went quiet for 2 hours, then exploded into passive-aggressive logistics. So are we canceling rooms or waiting? Does anyone know if flights can be credited? I'm so sorry, but also please tell me before Friday because of PTO. My Aunt Linda texted me privately. I don't care about the flight. Are you eating? I told her yes, even though dinner that night was crackers and a beer. Diane called me 3 times. I let them go to voicemail. On the 4th day, she sent a text that said, I did not know the extent of it. I believed that mostly. I also believed she knew enough to pressure me into silence because embarrassment mattered more to her than the truth until the truth had paperwork. Tessa tried everything. Apologies. Anger. Long texts at 2 a.m. voice memos I deleted after the first one started with. You have to understand how trapped I felt. She said Marcus had manipulated her. Maybe he had. He was smug and cruel and clearly enjoyed knowing he still had access to her. But he had not typed my initials. He had not sent the vendor emails. He had not stood in our kitchen and told me I probably forgot. Marcus disappeared almost immediately once the wedding stopped being useful drama. From what a mutual friend told me later, he told people Tessa had taken things too seriously, which was about what I expected from a man who wanted control without consequences. Financially, I did not get a clean victory. I lost part of the venue deposit. I lost money on printed invitations, welcome bag supplies, favors, and a block of custom cocktail napkins that said A&T in gold foil. The hotel block took time to unwind. Some relatives got flight credits, some didn't. My parents were furious on my behalf, but still had to call family members and explain there would be no wedding. But because I acted before the 21-day catering deadline and the 14-day rental cutoff, I avoided the worst of it. Several unauthorized upgrades were removed. A few charges were disputed successfully because the approvals did not match the contract language. Tessa had to repay me for specific costs tied to changes she made under my name, including the dessert station deposit and part of the floral upgrade. She fought that at first. Then Coleman sent one letter with dates, screenshots, and the typed initials, and suddenly repayment became more attractive than legal trouble. Moving out was quieter than I expected. The apartment looked sad once the wedding stuff came down. Not tragic, just sad, like a store after closing. I packed my books, my suits, my kitchen knives, and the framed photo from our engagement trip that I could not bring myself to throw away, but also could not look at. I left the leftover favors in a box labeled free or trash. There was a half-used roll of packing tape stuck to the floor by the door, and for some reason, that was what made me sit down for a minute. Tessa was not there when I did the final pickup. She had gone to stay with her cousin. On the counter, she had left the ring box. Empty. I moved into a smaller one-bedroom near Cheeseman Park. The first Saturday there, I woke up at 7:15 out of habit and reached for my phone, expecting vendor emails, family questions, another invoice, and another tiny emergency dressed up as romance. There was nothing. No countdown app. No group chat panic. No seating chart. No one telling me I was controlling because I wanted to know why my name was on a bill. I made coffee, stood in my new kitchen, and looked at the empty squares on my calendar. For months, I had been trying so hard not to be the controlling event guy that I ignored the difference between micromanaging and asking for transparency. I had treated emotional problems like logistics problems because logistics were easier. Contracts have clauses. People have motives. One is much cleaner than the other. I still work events. I still notice when a floor plan is wrong or a timeline has a gap. I still hate the phrase small tweak. But now, when someone tells me I am overreacting to something with my name and money attached to it, I do not immediately apologize for noticing. The wedding was canceled. The relationship is over. I did not get every dollar back. I got enough back to know leaving was still cheaper than staying. And for the first time in months, I looked at a blank Saturday and didn't feel behind. I felt free. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.